The latest season of Ultraman has come to an end, so it's time to talk all about it. Hello everyone, it's thomasjujube, and before I talk about Ultraman Arc, if you're interested in the show in any way and you haven't seen it yet, the entire show is available on YouTube for free with English dubs or English subs, and it's very easy to get into. If you haven't seen any Ultraman season, this one's a pretty good starter, so I would recommend going and checking that out if you don't want to risk getting spoiled at all. But if you have seen the season already, be sure to let me know what you thought of it down in the comment section. I thought Arc was a pretty standard season of Ultraman. Nothing in it was super standout to me, but nothing in it was super bad to me, and overall I thought it was pretty good. Now I will admit, my biggest problem with the show did kind of come a bit early on, and it's my biggest disappointment as well, which is that the show started with the parasite thing and the monohorn. That's the first episode plotline, but then they never really did anything else with that. I know it kind of seems like a minor nothing complaint because it's not really an aspect of the show, but I don't know, I think it's weird to introduce that in episode 1 as an aspect of the show, but then the real threat of the show is the entity organization that sent the monohorn, not the monohorn parasites themselves or whatever. And the monohorn is really set up as this thing, even before the show started, as something that dramatically changed this world as it introduced kaiju, which was later discovered to be a side effect of the onyx. So, I don't know, it just kind of felt like the monohorn disappeared into the background. In the finale, there's a really cool moment where Arc uses the monohorn as a weapon to take out Swede, but I feel like they lost the thematic importance that would have had, because I think the world building in this world is kind of not as interesting as a lot of other Ultraman seasons are, or at least Earth's world building, because they add stuff to the cosmos in Ultraman lore that I think works well. Now the actual main plotline, I guess including the monohorn, but not really, I thought it was fine. It's not the craziest thing ever, but I thought they executed it well, mainly because of the villains. I think the villain faction here is pretty interesting because we don't really ever meet the main villain, Zesu, however they say his name. He's the main villain of the show, but we only see a hologram of his head at the end of it. We never actually fight him. The real main antagonist is the Gelos monsters until Swede comes in, and now she's the primary antagonist. And she's just a general or a lackey. Just Rution is really just a guy in this intergalactic resistance. He's not really super powerful or anything as far as we know. So the whole dynamic is more or less just a small component of this galaxy-wide war happening, and I think that's pretty interesting. I hope we get to see more of it in the future. It is kind of ambiguous if it got wrapped up off screen in the finale, and I'm fine with that. I don't need it to be a big part of the show because that's not what it's about, but I think it's really cool. There's a whole new galaxy, a whole new war, as I said, that's out there and that we can maybe explore at some point in an Ultra Galaxy fight. That kind of goes for a lot of the episodic storylines as well. I feel like Arc introduced a lot of alien species that don't have a physical look, the woman over the call in the radio episode and Givas's pilot. I think stuff like that is fun just because of how Ultraman as a franchise is, that they could come back to any one of these episodes or these characters or ideas in the next show or a future show. I think that's a lot of fun. I do quite like that. So as for the episodic self-contained episodes, I thought Arc had a pretty fun selection of them, since that is a bulk of the show, right? It's not all just the plot. The plot itself is kind of episodic / self-contained because it's just little pockets of plot, which is fine. That's how Ultraman is. So anyways, the Givas episodes are definitely my favorite because I like big giant robots, and a big giant robot episode fighting against and then alongside the Ultraman was really cool, easily the highlight of the show. The Kanagon episode was also a lot of fun because it was insane. If I do have to make a complaint about the episodes, the biggest problem would definitely be that Blaze Arc, because it just felt anticlimactic how it ended with none of the actual characters from Scarred appearing. I thought it was interesting they did a alternate dimension skip team as Scarred, because, or maybe, I don't think it was Scarred. I think some people said it was the higher up organization in that world, but essentially Scarred. You know what I mean. It was cool we saw the alt like dimension team, because I feel like Ultraman doesn't usually, when they deal with alternate dimensions, they don't show like doppelgangers in recent years at least. But it was just kind of disappointing we never got much with the Blazar team. I'll plug my Blazar review here now if you're interested in hearing last year's review on last year's Ultraman. I don't mind that Arc had a bunch of episodic episodes, because that, again, as I mentioned, that's just what Ultraman is. I see complaints in my comment section and online of people like, oh, Ultraman Arc is so episodic and blah blah blah, and it's like that's what Blazar was. But I like how like Blazar especially did this as well, how the episodic episodes are like a nice, cool, self-contained story, and it gives you character development as well, like, because there's, you know, a bunch of characters here. So if I had to, like, again, I don't mind that it's episodic. I just think maybe the back half could have been slightly more tied together, just because we introduced Swede with the final form, and then I think you could have at least had her like in the background, like sending out these, or like creating these new Earth kaiju that are attacking. And she doesn't need to interact with Yuma or anything. I just think there was some room there to let her like do stuff and still keep the episodic nature of the show. Again, just kind of plays into the basicness of Arc, because it doesn't do anything super unique in my opinion, but it's not a bad thing because it does it well, especially with like the aesthetics too. Regards to the actual main suit, I've definitely warmed up to the look of Arc a lot. Initially I was like, he looks very generic, like he just looks like an Ultraman, especially with the head though. Like the head has blue like highlights and stuff like that, and I thought that was really cool. I still think they should have added that to the body, but I definitely warmed up to the suit itself. It's fun. I really like the armors too. I love the armors, really. I'm glad we got form changes back after Blazar, and you know, the powers and the action with them is cool. I love the Galaxy armor. That's my favorite of the armor set, just because like the detailing is cool. Like it looks cool. I think they should have added a helmet piece. I think it's weird they didn't do that 2 years in a row. And then it might be biased because I love the power set too. Like I love the teleportation thing, and the fact it comes from Arc's imagination instead of Yuma, and the whole episode arc, no pun intended, where it appeared was really awesome. And the fights, like there's so many incredible fights in this show. Like there's like at least I think 5 that if someone told me that was their favorite fight in this show, I'd be like, yeah, that's fair. That's like a really cool fight. Like at least the big ones are episode 1 and the finale, of course, but like even besides that, there's like just a random like monster fight episode where we go into the eyes, and that was so weird, but it was awesome. And my personal favorite, once again, the Givas episode where he returns and we get like a one long take of Arc fighting with Givas, and there's a moment where like Givas, like what does he do? He like grabs like the energy beam from the kaiju and he like throws it on the ground and flips modes. And it was so cool. Like that, the fact he flips modes in that, I'm definitely going to be thinking about Givas in that fight for a while. Givas is my goat. Givas better come back. Or a Givas. There could be multiple Givases out there, right? Like we could get, I mean, this is the franchise that took an Ultraman Orb one-off kaiju and later made a whole planet of them, an upgrade form, like a mother whatever, in the subsequent season. So, you know, they could do that again. The shining part of Ultraman Arc for me, though, is the main Skip crew. Because, like, they're a non-attack team, which has been a minute since we got that. So they're not actively going out into fights, they're helping people, so that's really fun. It kind of makes me connect with them a little bit more. But then they have a guy from, like, the attack team on the team, Shu, which just adds an interesting dynamic, especially to the early episodes, and then like that it adds this like nice built-in option to do development, which they do pretty well. The other thing too is that they have a robot friend. I like Yuppie. I do wish Yuppie got like an episode about him, but he also still like got to fight in the Kanegan episode, so whatever. The Rin and the Captain, I thought they were good characters. I like how they got a bit of focus and development and all that. You know, I don't have really anything groundbreaking or like super unique to say about them other than Aba Ranger references are cool and Nin is cute. But, you know, besides that, the best dynamic is, of course, Yuma and Shu. First of all, he's not called Shu initially, they call him Ishido, and then as he becomes a closer member of the team, they switch to calling him by his first name, which is a lot of fun. And again, because of that unique team dynamic, I love that we have, like, his character arc, his development is becoming closer friends and eventually family with the Skip crew, especially Yuma, of course. Some of the best moments are throughout the show, but especially towards the finale, where we get the two of them learning to place more faith in each other, especially, again, Shu learning to trust in Yuma's blind optimism sometimes. And because of that, I would definitely say Shu's my favorite character of the show, but Yuma is great too. I thought they did an excellent job balancing his personality between being like a naive kid Ultra Pro tag and a competent team member, especially because Arc was happening around the same time as Ultraman Rising, which you should check out my review of. Rising had Kenji, who is like, you know, the cool, badass Ultraman guy, but like he was still learning, and I like how they kind of flipped that dynamic a little bit in the show, where Yuma's not cool and badass, but he's, you know, he's somewhat competent as Ultraman, right? The use your imagination thing was a lot of fun. I like how they used imagination as like a mechanism for a lot of stuff in this, like especially the conflict they start creating with the villains, where they don't have the imagination to not destroy the Earth, and Swede says some stuff like, oh, we're such an intelligent race, like we don't need imagination, we can just create the future, something to that effect. I can't remember exactly. And Yuma's like, well, we're not as intelligent, but we have the imagination to create the reality we want in a different way. I thought that was a nice, like, little aspect of like the show that's not like part of the aesthetics or even like all of the catchlines. I think it is part of I think it's the tagline, right? Unleash your imagination. Either way, it's fun. And then also to Rution, he's a character sometimes. I don't need him to like be super fleshed out and stuff. He's good enough. But I think it's cool that like Ultraman Arc is not a separate entity of Yuma. The separate entity is Rution, and from a different, like, it's just an alien from a different planet or galaxy or whatever that just looks kind of like an Ultraman. And then when he fuses with Yuma, now they create Ultraman Arc. And I thought it was really cool because we get to see other members of Rution's race, like Bjorno, and I guess Swede's monster form, kind of. Like, there's theoretically a whole planet out there of Ultra-like beings that aren't Ultramen. And again, that's something we could, like, expand upon in the future that I would really like to see. I guess that just shows how much I enjoyed the show, how good the show was, right? Like, now that we've finished the show off, but we've established these new character dynamics, I'd like to see more of these characters and this new dynamic that they've established with everyone. So I have been saying Arc is like basic, it's simple, because I do think it is. I don't think there's like a super crazy unique thing or aspects of the show, but everything it does works pretty much. Like, there's no real downside or negative to it, in my opinion. That being said, here's my ranking. I hope with Ultraman Omega next year, they do find something different to do with Ultraman. I'm not going to go into a whole list of what I think they should do. I mean, if they do another, like, Blaze Art, let's be honest, Blaze Art was kind of also basic. It wasn't really super groundbreaking in a lot of aspects, I think, which is why Arc also feels kind of samey. I hope that they do something big and unique next year. I'll keep watching. I'll probably enjoy it if they do another solid Ultraman show, but I would like to see them get kind of insane next year. That being said, let me know what you thought of Ultraman Arc. Let me know if you're excited for Ultraman Omega. I will be back in a couple months when we get a first look at Omega, and then later in the year when we get Omega itself airing. Check out my short reviews if you want to hear my thoughts on any specific episodes that I briefly brought up here, and make sure to subscribe for all my future tokusatsu content, and I hope to see you next time.